Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, June the 25th, 2020. It is currently 10:31 a.m. Central Time, and I am live on the air to try to help you understand where we are. Yes, this is another episode in kind of this ongoing series that I am calling Where We Are, and then I give you the date. Where we are for Thursday, June the 25th, 2020. And the goal here is simple. I try to stop what we're doing and just take some time to look at where we are, to listen to some news clips, offer some commentary, offer some thoughts, try to figure out where we are so that we can figure out where we are going. Give you some things to look out for, things that you need to know, things you need to pay attention to. Obviously, this is a part of the Theology Central podcast, so offer a theological and biblical perspective, and just it really is kind of a catch-all because there's usually so much going on in one day that I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? If I do one story for each, it's going to turn like, what do I do? So this is kind of my attempt to try to figure it out. I still don't really know. I don't know if it's a good idea. I don't know if it's a bad idea. There hasn't been much. There hasn't been a lot of feedback for these. I think the first one was really shaky and questionable and not really very good. I think by the second one, I don't know how many I've done now, 2, 3. I think by the second or third one, I was starting to kind of get an idea of where I want to go. So we will see. I'm always attempting to figure out, how to address things in the best way possible. And sometimes it's better to just group a couple of stories together in one episode. The problem is, what do I call that episode, right? How do I capture, how do I let everyone know, hey, I'm going to be covering 4 stories. I'm going to be covering 5 stories. I can put it in the description, but then what title? Do I focus on one story over the others? What do I do? So this idea of, this idea of where we are kind of lets you know, the listener, oh, okay, he's going to be talking about a number of things today to try to figure out where we are, or try to tell me where we are, and he's going to try to offer some perspective on where he thinks we are going. So I hope you appreciate this. It's something I'm definitely trying to do. So we will see how long it lasts. Here's what I've learned: if you don't try, you can't succeed. But if you do try, you can definitely fail. Right? So if you don't try, you can't succeed. But if you do try, there's a very good chance you can fail. So that's one thing. If you don't try, you can't fail. But if you don't try, you can't succeed. But if you do try, then because failure sometimes is statistically, you probably have a greater chance of failure by trying. But you have a 100% guaranteed statistical probability you'll never succeed if you don't try. So, it depends on how you want to look at things. So, but you're not here to talk to me, give a philosophy on should you try, or should you not try? Should you be afraid of failure, or should you embrace failure? I'm not going to get into a philosophical discussion about that. No, the goal here is to not to try to figure out. I try to state exactly where we are. I don't try to ask, where are we? I try to say, hey, here's where I see that, here's where we are today, as of right now, at this minute, because literally 2 minutes from now, who knows? I mean, we're in a crazy time, right? We're in a crazy time. And I think as a podcaster, how do you just ignore what's going on? How do you just, I've got to talk about it, but at the same time, I want to keep our focus where it needs to be. So, man, I'm still trying to process this. I'm still trying to figure this out. So I don't know where you are physically today. I'm here in West Texas, and what's headed my way right now is supposedly this massive dust storm that is on its way, and it's supposed to arrive in my area in the next, 6-7 hours, supposedly. Let me go to the news story, because I've been following this for the last couple of days, because it's just crazy. This comes to us from Bloomberg. African dust turns skies gray from the Gulf Coast to Florida. Summer brings long, hot days and afternoon thunderstorms across the United States. Now you can add African dust to the mix. two large blobs, that's how they're being described, two large blobs of dust blown off Africa's Sahara Desert are on their way to North America, driven by the same high-pressure system that pushes hurricanes across the same route. The largest is already over the Gulf of Mexico and parts of Florida. The second is in the transit in the deep Atlantic. All right? So this year has brought a global pandemic, murder hornets, record high temperatures, and the threat of a wild hurricane season to the U.S., as well as out-of-control forest fires and locusts and other parts of the world. But now we have two large dust clouds coming from the Sahara Desert. It may not be apocalyptic, but it really is very 2020. Now, I don't know how bad it's going to be. I don't know. I don't know if it's going. Now, I've seen pictures of this dust blob arriving at other locations, and it's like the before and after pictures are pretty crazy. Like, you're there, it looks beautiful, nice blue sky, and then once it comes in, it looks like a really bad dust storm. And here in West Texas, where I'm currently at, we get some really bad dust storms. So I don't know what this is going to look like when it arrives. I'm supposed to be standing outside this evening for two soccer games. I don't know, or football, soccer, I'm not going to get into that argument, but that's where I'm supposed to be this evening. And I will see if it gets really bad. At least I'm here, I'm here in the area where it's going to occur. So there's a part of me that I just want to look up, and it just this just blob of dust just come pouring in, and blots out the sun, and it turns everything to darkness, and it's like some crazy event. I really want to be in the middle of it, but at the same time, I don't, because I know people with a lot of, heart problems and allergies, and it could be really, really, really bad for a lot of people. So I don't want it for that reason, but I do like the idea of being in the middle of it. So we will see if it actually, what actually occurs. But I guess if you're in Florida, here in Texas, the other parts, well, I know people listen to us from around the world. So wherever you are, if you are in the midst of it, right? If you're in the midst of it, please send me a picture of it. newsif@yahoo.com. 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 Please don't send me some photoshopped photograph of some massive dust storm and say, this is what I'm currently experiencing, because I would be like, oh, I got this picture, and then it wouldn't be legit, and then that would really make me angry. So I'll probably have to do a Google image search to see if the images I get haven't already been posted somewhere else, this image is from 1972. So but if you're in the midst of it, I would like to see what it looks like where you are, and we will see if it gets really, really bad. I'll probably take some photographs and post them on the Theology Central blog. And you can access that blog by going to theologycentral.net, theologycentral.net, theologycentral.net. Look for the blog section. So if it gets really bad, I will post photographs there just to kind of let you see. I don't know. I don't know what to expect, but I've been watching this news story, and now supposedly supposed to arrive, I think this evening is what I heard. The last I heard, but we will see. Now, speaking of Texas, speaking of the Texas area, I don't know if you've been watching the news, but COVID-19, man, woo! Yeah, COVID-19 is, it never really went away, but it's back in big numbers here in the state of Texas and a number of other states around the United States of America. COVID-19 is surging. Case numbers are surging. I don't know what we do here. I do not know what the course of action is, and I don't know. It's hard to even make a prediction. Where we are right now is COVID-19 cases are surging across different parts of the United States of America, especially here in Texas. I don't know where. I don't know if there's going to be I think there's almost now. I think we've crossed the line. And I don't think there's going to be any more shutdowns. I don't think it's going to happen. I think people are going to continue to go out. They're going to continue to do things. And if the death numbers go up, if the death toll goes up, it's going to go up. And I think people are I think there are many people out there just like they're going to take the risk. Now, the problem is they're going to take the risk and then they're going to spread it to other people who may not necessarily want to take that risk. I don't know what the answers are. It's crazy. I'm sitting here watching all the numbers going, okay, so, what do churches do now? I know many churches are just like, nope, we're not, we're going to meet no matter what. We don't care. Some churches are hesitant. I saw a study that I think 64% of people polled are uncomfortable about going back to worship services. So I don't know if attendance is going to be way down in some areas, in some churches. I don't know. I don't know. But let me just let you hear a little bit of what I heard this morning on the radio in regards to Texas and COVID-19.
More than half of all U.S. states are experiencing a surge in the number of new daily coronavirus cases.
Yesterday, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut all announced a 14-day quarantine requirement for visitors coming from 9 states that have elevated case numbers. One of those states that has a spike right now is Texas, which earlier this week reported a record 5,551 new coronavirus cases in a single day.
Well, let's talk this through with Ashley Lopez from member station KUT in Austin, Texas. Hi, Ashley. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, good morning.
So I want to ask you about one of the trends we're seeing here. It looks like a lot of these new cases are people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Is anyone able to explain that at this point?
Yeah, that appears to be tied to Governor Greg Abbott allowing bars, restaurants, and salons and the like to reopen when he lifted the statewide stay-at-home orders back in April. And epidemiologists also say that a lot of these spikes in cases happened after holidays like Easter and Memorial Day. That means a lot of transmission is happening in these smaller gatherings.
Well, one of the interesting dynamics here is you have the big cities in Texas basically telling the state, if you're not going to do more to prevent this, we're going to impose our own restrictions. How is that going over with the governor?
Not well. Up until last week, he wouldn't allow them to do that, to impose any big restrictions on businesses. Abbott remains reticent about taking any major action that would affect businesses. He's been urging people to stay at home if they can, telling them to wear masks and wash their hands, avoid any gatherings. But he says actually shutting down businesses at this point is the absolute last resort. Here's Abbott during a recent press conference.
Texans have already shown that we don't have to choose between jobs and health. We can have both. We can protect Texans' lives while also restoring their livelihoods.
So, Ashley, the communities, the cities that are taking their own action, is it making a difference? Is there a way to tell at this point?
It's still pretty early to tell. Cities were, again, only recently allowed to start imposing their own rules. And mayors are saying this is not enough. They got the okay to penalize businesses for not requiring people to wear masks. But other than that, there's not much to enforce that would keep the virus from actually spreading.
Well, and as numbers go up, one of the big concerns of health experts is hospital capacity. How is the state dealing with that so far with these new cases rising?
Yeah, that's a big concern and not well. Yesterday, the Children's Hospital in Houston started admitting adult patients. Some hospitals are reporting a surge of patients in their ICUs, but the Texas Hospital Association says that as of now, most hospitals still have some headroom, as in they set aside some capacity for more COVID patients. Officials there also said that there's still the option of moving COVID patients into other wings of hospitals and maybe even limit some non-essential procedures, but we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, that's the situation in Texas, one of these states seeing a rise in new coronavirus cases. Ashley Lopez from member station KUT, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Now, that's just one of the states. Let me give you an example. Obviously, I'm going to start with Texas because that's where I am and because it's Texas, and so everything should start in Texas. Okay, all right. That's a joke. Don't get offended, all you people who live in really, really bad states like Nebraska. And okay, I'm just joking. All right, here we go. California. New coronavirus cases in California rise 70% in just 2 days as Governor Newsom considers reinstating strict rules. Well, it's just crazy. It's like, hey, we're having this explosion in numbers, and you've got the governor's go, well, maybe. And I think I don't know if there's any going back. I think, look, They placed the rules and they put the rules in effect, and most people abided by the rules and went along with it and said, okay, I'm going to do what you're asking me to do. And I think at this point, they're like, look, I can't just stop my life forever. I cannot stop my life forever. For example, tonight, I'm supposed to be at a soccer game. And when we went to one of the practices, I know it was supposed to be a game and it got canceled because a thunderstorm moved in the area and there was lightning really close, so we had to leave. All right, so the soccer game, when I pulled up at that soccer game the other night that got canceled, so I didn't really get too far onto the, out to the area where all the soccer fields are, there were people everywhere. Nobody wearing a mask, people everywhere. And I was kind of like, oh, wow. You know what? I mean, like nobody's even wearing masks anymore for the most part. I think especially, I can't speak in other parts of the country, but here in Texas, you go out, Now, when I had to go to the doctor the other day, I mentioned this, I think, in another episode. And when I walked in, there was a sign I could not enter without a mask. And then once I got upstairs, they checked my temperature. Everybody was wearing a mask. My doctor was wearing a mask. Everybody's wearing a mask. In the medical world, that's obviously still going to occur. Outside of the medical world, I just think most people are like, I'm done. I'm just done. You told us to do this, and the numbers are exploding. Now, the numbers are exploding because we stopped doing it. But to get people to go back to all of those restrictions, I don't know. And clearly the Trump administration does not want to go back to that. And I understand the economic consequences. So who knows? I don't know what's going on in the state that you live. Here's what I will say. I don't think we're going back to a major shutdown. I don't think so, unless the death numbers just start rising at like absolutely alarming rates. But I think there's so much of the population now are convinced that this is all a conspiracy and a hoax that you're not going to convince those people no matter what you do. So the other people, I think, may be concerned, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any going back. But here's what I would tell you. Be careful. Look out for yourself. Make the best decision for yourself. Don't worry about what other people are saying or what other people are thinking. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Don't worry about what other people, don't look down. I think everyone's going to have to give everyone a little bit of freedom to make the best decision for themselves. People are going to have to make decisions, and they're going to have to do what's best, and everyone needs to support them and what they're doing. And in churches, I think churches, if some people don't feel comfortable coming back, don't make them feel like they're less than a Christian. They're not spiritual. They don't have faith. Don't start all of that nonsense, okay? People need to make the best decisions for their health, and then churches need to do everything to create a situation where if people don't feel comfortable showing up, they can hear the services, they can hear all the teaching, and they can participate and they can learn. So just yeah, I don't know. These numbers are definitely troubling, and we're definitely going in the wrong direction right now, and we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to see. Are we in the second wave now? Did the first wave ever end? And if this is the second wave, what my doctor told me to look for September. Once we get to September, October, that's where she thinks, boom, it's going to get really bad. If this is not the really bad time and September and October is the really bad time, then I don't know. And then like what are schools, like with numbers exploding, are you going to send all the kids back to school? I mean, like colleges, universities, what's going to happen to all of these situations? I really don't know how things are going to work. I think a lot of people are going to have to make some very smart, difficult decisions, and they just need to be very smart, need to be informed, stay away from conspiratorial thinking, stay away from bad information, try to make the best decision that is informed, that is well thought out. Don't be running around telling everyone else what they should do. It's not your place. Don't be out there trying to prove this is a time not to turn mask into political statements. This is not the time to try to be all big, bad, like you're so brave, you're not going to be scared of it. And we need to work together, be thoughtful, be considerate, think about other people around you. And even if you don't care, think about other people, and let's just try to be careful, and we'll have to see where this is going. But this is obviously the big story right now. and it's getting a lot of attention. And I really, really, really want everyone to just pay close attention to it. I hate that that's what I have to talk about because there are other issues going on in the world, but that's a big one. All right. Now, let's transition to a different story. And I was going to do this as its own individual podcast episode, but I'm going to put this with this episode now, and we may come back to it. I think this is something that's very important, and I found it to be interesting, and this is what happened. This morning when I got in my car, I realized I needed gas. So I stopped and put gas in the car. And that put me, once I got done putting gas in the car and I got back in the car and turned on the radio, it was right at 8. I think it was right at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., 8 a.m. I don't remember. It may have been 8 a.m. And I think it was the beginning of the Glenn Beck program. And he started the program in a really brilliant way because it got my attention. So when I got to the church, I sat in the car to listen because I was like, whoa, huh. Now, he's making it the most important story of the day. So I had to go, what was it? And it wasn't COVID-19. It wasn't COVID-19. And I'm like, well, this is is this the most important story of the day? So I'm going to let you hear him set up the story, give you the information about the story, and then I'll come back in and we'll try to analyze this for ourselves. I'll probably break in maybe a couple of times, but this is how the Glenn Beck program started today. This what you're getting ready to hear was I believe the first hour of the Glenn Beck program. It's already available in podcast form if you subscribe to the Glenn Beck program. And this is what he believes is the most important story of the day. It trumps. It's more important than COVID-19. It's more important than all the other things happening in our culture right now. It's more important than the economic situation. He believes this is the most important story. And so we're going to have to wait and see if this turns out to be true, but let's let him set this up. Here we go.
What you're about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Man, with all of the things that are going on today, what is the most important story of the day? I'll tell you. You may not agree when I read the headline, but by the time I finish, you will understand and agree. Probably the most important story of the day. Maybe even the most important story. Maybe the most important story of this entire event. We'll give it to you in 60 seconds.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Now, that's what you call a tease in radio. Very, very, very well done. All I could say when I was in the car, I just started doing this. I was like, way to go, man. You got my attention. You got my attention. Now, the problem is with teases in radio, teases in news, is you do them to keep people you want them to keep listening. So you tease the first segment to keep people listening, and then by the time you transition into the next segment, you got to offer a tease. And the problem is with the problem with teasing like that, and the problem with news headlines is because you almost have to, you got to say it or you got to write it in a way to get people to tune in. But are you overstating it? Are you using hyperbole? Are you exaggerating? Are you manipulating the situation simply to get people to click, simply to get people to listen, simply to get people to read? And that's always the danger, because then you could actually be misleading people. So it's a great tease from a radio perspective because I was hooked and I wanted to listen. Hopefully you're hooked and you want to hear this. What is the most important story of the day? Maybe the most important story of everything that is going on. That is big. That is big. So let's see what it was, and let's see if you agree. Here we go.
All right, if you haven't made the switch to Patriot Mobile, what are you waiting for? Their latest promotion might be what you're waiting for. Right now, they're giving you a choice. Either get a brand new phone, or if you want to keep your existing one, get a free month of service. Patriot Mobile is America's Christian conservative mobile phone company. They're never going to charge you hidden fees, unlike Big Mobile. They're not going to send your hard-earned money to leftist causes or groups trying to destroy the country. And plans now start as low as
You always have to get these
$25.
commercials.
US-based
Okay.
customer service team
If I
was just
had
voted number
a
one
producer,
among
they could
all
edit out
wireless
these things for
providers.
me. I guess I could
So
probably
what does
do
it
it.
mean?
Here we go.
It means that these guys are working hard for you.
All right, he's still doing his
They're
commercial.
Now being judged as the best in the business.
Patriot Mobile.
Everybody
Christian.
uses the same cell towers.
Christian
So
and
you're gonna
and
get the same
and
great
it's
coverage.
patriotism, Christianity.
And it's a
That
Christian
mixing of the
conservative
two
group that's doing it.
always makes me shake my head. but
Why are you putting your money anyplace else? Why are you
letting him
giving your
finish
money
his
to these
his talking.
big, giant corporations?
But I want to
that
make
are
sure we don't
working
miss a thing when he
against
comes
you?
back in.
Call 972
All right, so he's
Patriot.
going to do his
It's
thing.
972
Only because I don't want to broadcast their commercial without permission, so that's why I'm interrupting this. I forgot the commercial was there.
What is it that Franklin said?
Some podcasts of radio programs, they edit out these things.
Together, or will
He clearly
certainly
didn't.
hang separately?
So here we go.
972
All right.
Patriot.
All right.
972 Patriot or Patriot.
Here we go, coming back in.
All right, I want to talk to you about what I think is the most important story of the day. And it comes from The Hill. And the headline is just Facebook boycott gains momentum. All right, doesn't sound like a big deal, right? Facebook is coming under mounting pressure from major companies to rein in hateful content on their platform or risk further loss of ad revenue. In the past week, companies like Patagonia, The North Face, Ben & Jerry's, REI have joined the Stop Hate for Profit campaign organized by civil rights groups in the wake of police killing of George Floyd. Organizers of the Facebook boycott acknowledge that while previous efforts to change Facebook's platform have fallen short, the national focus on racial injustice has put the spotlight on all aspects of life, including social media. Now, here you have big tech that already defines hate speech as this speech, any speech that disagrees with what the mob is saying. That's hate speech. They already agree with it. They are already limiting speech. They're already demonetizing people. They kicked 2 people off just in the last 2 days. They are coming for us one by one as it is. Now, you have the advertisers organized by the same people that put me out, put all of us out, the same people who have been boycotting Rush Limbaugh forever. You now have those people coordinating the efforts on Facebook. And with what's happening, what do you think is going to happen? Quote, this is from Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League. I think the country is reckoning with this legacy of systematic racism in a way that it hasn't before. You see this playing out in the public square, and it seems to be playing out in the political arena. That environment, I think, creates the conditions in which this advertising pause has so much appeal. Notice they call it a pause and not a boycott, because I don't think they know if they can survive without Facebook and Google. You don't know who's going to win on that battle. I would just like to say to Jonathan Greenblatt, you should watch... What is the HBO show that's out now? The Something of America. I've been watching it. It's really, really good. About Charles Lindbergh winning the 1940 election or 1939 election instead of Roosevelt, and it shows how the Jews are just sold out. If you actually think, while you're there running the Anti-Defamation League, that the people of Black Lives Matter are your friends, you are insane. You are absolutely insane. So the ADL, the NAACP, Sleeping Giants, Color of Change, Free Press, and Common Sense have launched the Stop Hate for Profit campaign last week, calling on companies to pull their advertising dollars from Facebook for the month of July. There's been a lot of misinformation, says James Steyer, founder of and CEO of Common Sense. He said, after Floyd's death, there's been a ton of hate and white supremacist content on the platform, and they just ignore it. Really? The rhetoric is glorifying violence. The groups behind the current boycott are calling for Facebook to, among other things, create a threshold for harm where users facing harassment can speak directly with an employee, an internal mechanism for removing ads labeled as misinformation, and system for flagging content in private groups. So they want more restrictions. By the way, we have been flagged over and over again. This is how they are limiting our voices, because if you get enough people to let Facebook know that you think that that's misinformation, and if you get USA Today, ABC News, NBC to say what you're saying is misinformation, you're banned. They're already doing this. Although the campaign was just launched last week, they're already received more than a dozen corporate sponsors. Outerwear companies, including Eddie Bauer, were some of the first to join, pledging to stop buying advertisements on Facebook and Instagram for July. The web browsing company Mozilla, shipping company Local Postal, film distributor Magnolia Pictures, and global freelancing platform Upwork have also joined the campaign. As the world's largest on-demand remote talent platform, we're committed to building a safe and inclusive space for companies and professionals, says the CEO of Upwork. We cannot stand by and be complicit or complacent about the spread of hate, racism, and misinformation. Greenblatt suggested more companies are likely to add their names to the list. We've had a lot of incoming advertising agencies and other big brands who are thinking about it, and I think you'll see that more will come online in the days ahead. 360i, a digital advertising firm with clients like spice maker McCormick and Company, consumer giant Unilever, and Discover Financial Services, sent an email to clients last week advising them to join the ad boycott. David Kirkpatrick, author of The Facebook Effect and founder of Techomedy, called the potential of the boycott campaign historic. I think there's a small number of really global influential advertisers that would gain the attention of Facebook in a way that nothing else ever has. So they're going to start cracking down. Why am I telling you this? Because everything that I told you was coming is now here. These are the times. I literally would like you to thank God.
All right, now he's going to start talking about the Blaze TV network, and he's going to talking about that. And I'll come back and let him finish up some of his thoughts, but I want to jump in. First, just to be lighthearted and humorous, I do love when someone like Glenn Beck, who's a professional broadcaster who's been broadcasting forever, when even he's reading a news article and he doesn't know how to pronounce a word and he mispronounces it. That's one of the things, that's one of the reasons I don't do a lot of, I don't do editing because I don't want to waste my time editing. I want to waste my time, quote unquote, talking. I don't want to talk for 45 minutes and then spend an hour editing, because no, I can talk for 45 minutes, upload it, and then jump to the next thing. I do hate making mistakes when I read. I do, but it just warms the heart to hear him going, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce it. Like, I love that, because I find myself so many times reading something like, oh man, I don't know how to pronounce that. Now I could then go back and then try to edit that, but well, no, I can't, because I'm live on the air, so I can't. And I never want to go back to not being live. So there you have it. But so that's just a little lightheartedness. Okay. That's just joking around. That's a little humor, but there's a serious part here. And again, I don't want to overstate anything. I don't want to be hyperbolic. I want to be very precise here. Here is the thing, and this has been going on for a while, and I've talked about it a lot, but I'm going to talk about it again today, because this is where we are right now. We're in a situation where the big tech companies are being pressured by, well, in this particular case, a boycott, a pause, an ad revenue pause. These big companies are like, hey, we are not going to advertise on your platform unless you start cracking down on, quote unquote, racist speech, hate speech, whatever. Well, whenever you start cracking down on speech, Well, then who gets to determine what is right speech and what is wrong speech? Who gets to determine what is racist, what is not? Like, who gets to determine? Who is the ones making the determination? It's going to be these tech platforms. But these tech platforms, if they allow some things and other people don't agree, well, then the tech platforms really don't make the decision. So ultimately, the majority, the mob rule, begins to make the decision of what is allowed or not allowed. Now, I've talked about it before. I'm going to go back to it again. The first big major casualty of these tech companies deciding they're going to silence someone, you have to at least acknowledge Alex Jones was the forefront of this. Alex Jones, his whacked out conspiracy theories at times, a lot of the crazy things he said. Yes, I spoke against Alex Jones number of times, calling out some of his crazy conspiratorial theories number of times. I've played clips from Alex Jones, but I never called for Alex Jones to be banned. I wanted him to be able to have the freedom to speak, and then I wanted the freedom to criticize or offer a different perspective. But over time, he became a public enemy number one, and they went after him, and he got banned from everything. Banned, shut down, banned. Now, sometimes he may have been violating certain platform rules, and I'm not saying he never did. I'm not going to say he never brought anything on himself. But the point is, once that happened, a lot of people started like, wait. Whether you agree with Alex Jones or disagree with Alex Jones, this is setting a dangerous precedent. So for example, now, the Supreme Court had its ruling about discrimination, and now you can't discriminate against people based off their sexual identity, et cetera, et cetera. As more of those things begin to become commonplace, let's just use this for an example. You have a podcast, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, and you speak heavily against, you first of all, you say that, a man is a man based off biology and their genetic makeup. Doesn't matter what someone else is. You're a male, genetics, biology, that's it. Doesn't matter what you can identify as not being a male, but that doesn't make it true. And you speak against this transgender sexual identity kind of concept. You say homosexuality is a sin, and you say it's wrong. At what point does that now be as viewed as discriminatory hate speech? And then you get kicked off the platform. All right. So the fact that these companies are going hard at Facebook and they're going to pull revenue, they're going to pull ad revenue from Facebook, it's going to force Facebook to have to step up and start cracking down. And once they start cracking down, where is the new line and how many casualties fall from it? All right. Now, you've got the individuals, right, who just individuals are posting things. They get removed. But then you've got people, podcasters, churches who try to use Facebook, YouTube, Google. They use these things, all these podcasting platforms as a way to promote their ideas. Now, this is what people always say. Well, you know what? It's time for Christians to create their own platform. Yeah. You create your own platform, but you're only preaching to the choir. You create your conservative, like Glenn Beck's getting ready to talk about Blaze TV. Well, great. You created Blaze TV so a conservative voice can be heard. But who's going to subscribe to Blaze TV? Conservatives. When you basically remove any dissenting voices or difference of opinion, then everyone has their own little bubble, and then nobody can grow intellectually, nobody can be challenged, nobody can change. You want the free market exchange of ideas. Now, I understand these platforms, you want those platforms to have some rights to be able to say, no, we don't want this content on our platform. And they have a right to do that. For example, Sermon Audio. To be on Sermon Audio, you have to sign an agreement that you agree with their doctrinal position. They don't want anyone on there who disagrees with that. You want a company to have the right to do that. Now, if Sermon Audio has the right to say, look, you can't be on our platform because you don't agree with us doctrinally, well, then could you not then agree that then Facebook has a right to get rid of anyone who they don't agree with ideologically? Right? How, you want the people to have some freedom here. You want people to have freedom, but it's a very important concept for everyone to be paying attention to, because the voices that are going to be silenced, the voices that are going to get kicked off those platforms and are going to have to find other platforms to go to, are going to ultimately be people who are, I would think the biblical worldview, biblical Christianity is going to be targeted. Obviously, many conservative voices are going to be targeted. I like the freedom of speech. I like the freedom. I like freedom. I want people to have freedom to say whatever they want. I want them to be able to say so. But at the same time, if I built a platform, am I going to build a platform for everyone? Or am I going to make rules? Well, all the platforms know they have to make some kind of rules, right? You can't have death threats, obviously. But do you want racists on your platform saying absolutely crazy racist things? Do you want them on your platform? You say, no, I don't want them on the platform. Okay. Well, then where else do they, maybe an atheist is in charge. I don't want any Christians on my platform. Well, you've got, Sermon Audio is not going to let an atheist group post their, let's say the atheists are meeting every Sunday and they preach a message and they want their messages to be heard. Sermon Audio is not going to let them on there. They don't want charismatics on there. So do they have the right? Well, if Sermon Audio has the right, does Facebook have the right? Does YouTube have the right? Like sometimes when they get rid of conservatives, right? Like for example, Blaze TV. Blaze TV is not going to allow liberals to be on Blaze TV. So they're going to restrict who can be on Blaze TV. So sometimes we get appalled at the restrictions, but then we'll create a platform with our own restrictions. So how is this all ultimately going to work? As long as the internet allows for the free exchange of ideas, as long as the internet still remains free, the individual platforms do you not give them some kind of freedom to say, nope, you can't be on here. Nope, that's a warning. You can't. Like we get mad when that happens, and we can say, well, they're only going after conservatives. They're not going after liberals. Do they have the right to do so? They don't have the right to do so. And if they have the right to do so, then if a conservative group creates a platform and don't allow liberals on there, do they have the right to do so? It's this weird world that we live in that, like, is this the most important story of the day? Well, I don't know. I think if you're on Facebook, if you're on any social media site, you have to realize there's going to become a chance where your viewpoint may be viewed as wrong, and then you're cut off. You lose the ability to post on that platform. I need all the platforms. So what do you do? I mean, I could create podcasts where I could be on any platform, right? I mean, right now I'm on all the platforms. So I've never had an issue. I've never been given a warning. I've never had any issue at all so far. Okay. But this is very important. In fact, the only time I've ever been kicked off anything is I was kicked off Christian radio because they didn't like me criticizing parts of Christianity. Well, it's their radio station. They're right. Now, part of me felt like it was wrong the way they did so, and it was wrong because they didn't give me any rules. I didn't even get a warning. I just was gone. I was kicked off the air. But it's their radio station, right? Their radio station, their rules. So far, I've never had any problem. But here's the thing. I could do this. I could say, well, you know what? I can't preach about, biblical view on sexuality. I can't teach this. I can't teach that. So just create a podcast where I talk about, I don't know, music, or I talk about movies. Okay, I'll be good to go then. I mean, I could do that. But obviously, I believe that I have a responsibility to be using the platform to challenge people from a theological and biblical perspective. But at what point does that viewpoint get silenced? And if it gets silenced, then is that's a bad thing, because we then can't, the way you get your message out in 2020 is obviously in a digital way. So I don't know if it's the most important story of the day, but I think it's something to watch. And so let me state it this way. Outside forces are going to force these tech companies to try to silence certain voices. What voices they go after, you can probably imagine what they're going to go after. I know President Trump and conservatives are upset, and they're going to go after some of these platforms to try to not allow them to do this. I don't know how you work this out. How much freedom do you want companies to have? And again, if you want some companies to be forced to allow all voices, then what platforms can restrict those voices? Like, How do you manage all of this? Raises lots of important philosophical questions, and it's something to watch. But let's just watch. Glenn Beck is getting ready to now. He's talking about Facebook. They're coming after us. He said they're coming after us. They're going to silence us. And then he's now getting ready to say, you need to thank God that Blaze TV exists. But he's going to tell you Blaze TV. I'm telling you, Blaze TV is not for everyone, because Glenn Beck limits what voices can be on Blaze TV. So is that not the same thing? So all right, let's listen to what he says.
For the Blaze, because it is only because of him that I started it. It is only because of him that we said we're going to build a platform that does not rely on advertising. We're going to build a platform that will be open to all voices that are coming under attack. If you believe in the Constitution of the United States, you have a home here.
If you believe in the Constitution of the United States, you have a home. Well, there would be liberals who say they believe in the Constitution of the United States. So is it anyone who believes in the Constitution or anyone who believes in interpreting the Constitution the way Glenn Beck says? I'm telling you, he's going to limit who's going to be on Blaze TV. He is, because here's what would happen. He'd bring in a major liberal voice. The subscribers of Blaze TV would cancel their subscription in 5.2 seconds and say he's sold out. So he's got restrictions. He's got restrictions. Trust me, he does. So is that not the same thing?
I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know how long, but the Blaze is one of the platforms now, and others are not built the same as ours. We have been talking to other platforms for a while, and I think with coronavirus, they kind of woke up, and hopefully they are changing some of the things that they do. I am open to talking to any other platform about what makes us different and what makes us a little more stable. But I also am open to talking to any talent that is on the ropes right now. There must be some place that is preserved and is a defender and is a voice of America. I also put out a call today. Please, and I have asked people who are like-minded, and I think they thought I was crazy when I said it, but I am putting a call out right now to people who are in Silicon Valley, who see what's going on, and know that the only voices that are important at times like these are the ones of dissent. You cannot have lockstep thinking. You cannot do it. If you want to survive, you must have people that think differently to at least present another point of view. The Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, is under attack. And I don't know if there is going to be a voice outside of the public square. And I ask people in the tech industry, is there anyone within the sound of my voice that is thinking about the ability to have a voice of America outside of America? Some place where we can be safe and be free and can actually get into America this point of view. Because freedom of speech is on the ropes. And I believe we could be living in a completely different America by Christmas.
Now, I want you to hear that, because the goal of this little series that I'm doing, where we are, is to figure out where we are, but to see where we're going. And he's saying he thinks we're going to look at a very different America by Christmas. Now, that's moving quickly, and he thinks freedom of speech is on the ropes. Now, he makes a very important point. Dissenting voices that's what the freedom of speech is there to protect. Dissenting voices, minority voices. You've got to protect that. But let me state it again. If he wants dissenting voices, how many dissenting voices are on his platform? How many dissenting voices is he going to allow on his platform? The Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Okay, what if someone wants as a dissenting voice to the Constitution of the Bill of Rights? But no place for them on the Blaze. Of course, because he's got a certain rules in place. So how many dissenting voices can you what are the rules for a platform when it comes to dissenting voices? To give you an example, there are a couple of Christian podcast apps that are out there. That they're a podcast app that all they're there for is to give you Christian podcast, sermons, Christian podcasts. I have emailed 2 of them multiple times saying, "Hey, Christian podcaster, my podcast is available on every secular podcast app available. Apple, Google, Spotify. I mean, you name the podcast app, Pocket Cast, Breaker. We're on all of them. We're available on every podcast app. Guess where we're not available? We're not available on at least 2 Christian podcast apps. We're not available. And I have emailed them and I can't even get a reply. I can't even get a response. They don't even acknowledge my existence. Okay, so now, do they have a right to do that? They have a right to do that, but in this case, I'm more welcomed in the secular world than I am in the Christian world. Now, that's their right. That's their right. They don't have to give me the time of day. Now, is it because I'm too dissenting on my views when it comes to Christianity and that I point out some of the problems within the American church? I don't know. So I agree there needs to be a dissenting voice, but he created a platform where there are no dissenting voices to his perspective. See, everyone creates a platform and then they want that platform to reflect their point of view and their ideology. Well, can't Facebook and YouTube do the same? Can't Twitter do the same? That doesn't go with our ideology. The end. We're going to shadow ban you, remove you, demonetize you, whatever the case may be. So one side we criticize, but then we want to create platforms, but we want to create platforms only for our voices. So how does that work? All right, let's let him continue.
This is not hyperbole. And I want to speak directly to those people who are living in the center of the country. I got an email from somebody who lives in Los Angeles. And I got almost the same email from my daughter, who was up here at the ranch for the last couple of months in Idaho. And she just went back to Dallas. I had a guy who was up here. He's one of my researchers. He was up with me working on this July 2nd project. And he was up here for about 3 weeks. He had been down by St. George for about a month before that because he lives in Los Angeles and he got out of the city with COVID. So this is the first time he's gotten back to L.A. He wrote me this morning and he said, "Glenn, maybe we're missing it. The classic narrative is the attack on Fort Sumter kicked off the Civil War. Yes, that is officially true. But the first violence between the North and the South, including localized rioting and looting, started months before that. The path to Fort Sumter wasn't quiet and peaceful, nor was the breakout of military hostilities a surprise. Honestly, it had been a 10-plus year buildup. But in the key weeks and months ahead of Sumter, it had become very obvious it was an inevitability. Is the Civil War 2 already underway? The other side is already fighting it. They're using violence to overthrow the United States Constitution and the government. Our side, the pro-USA side, sits and asks for constructive dialogue. We kneel and apologize and give them every inch they demand. Back then, Southern governors advocated their citizens to arm themselves. Already, they had declared martial law in Kentucky and Virginia by the time Sumter rolled around. Now, BLM and Antifa are walking the streets armed. They're attacking members of Congress, attacking police. They have taken over U.S. territory by force. They have torn down hundreds of public monuments, local, state, and federal. We may as well just say it. The war is already here. They're not protesting. This is not civil unrest and looting. This is not about police reform or policy changes or income inequality. This is insurrection by anti-American Marxist forces and millions of useful idiot supporters bent on the violent overthrow of the United States of America. There is no way to interpret the data in front of us any other way. You may be right to stay up in Idaho, because I'm in L.A. right now, and I can't tell you the level of tension you can feel just walking around a grocery store. It's palpable. Such a striking difference from being in St. George or Idaho. Politeness and civility are completely absent even in casual interactions here. The Marxists have already enjoyed victories over police departments. How long before it's a National Guard weapons depot? Fort Sumter was about claiming American cannons. Remember? Powder guns. The build-up to the Civil War looked eerily similar to what we're seeing today. Localized violent clashes and those insurrection taking up arms against official government authorities, and the insurrection Southernist Democrat media fanning the flame. The other side is already mobilized. We're still in the denial phase. After all, we haven't had to fight Marxists directly since 1974 in Vietnam, and indirectly via the Cold War since 1989. We might be a bit rusty. Now they are in our midst, our sons, our daughters, our neighbors, and we're paralyzed because the implications of what we're facing are horrifying. But they just might be real. My daughter wrote to me yesterday and said, "Dad, I think I want to come back up. It is tense here. It doesn't feel the same." I want you to know, for those of you who are out there like I am right now, you're not in one of the major cities. It is different there. It is. I am in this small town right now in Idaho that just feels the same. And you're watching things on TV and it's still disconnected from you. It doesn't feel that way in the major cities. I share this with you because we have got to wake up, stand together, and know exactly what we believe. What I said earlier about the blaze, thank God.
So he's taking this idea, hey, they're boycotting, these people are trying to boycott Facebook. Facebook's going to crack down. They're going to come for us. And we're somehow in the middle of this, like a civil war is about to explode. I don't know what's going to happen to the country. I'm not going to try to make that kind of prediction. Here's the thing, though. I just want to make sure we see the kind of the logical fallacy here. Hey, Facebook, YouTube, they're going to come for us and they're going to shut us down. So what we need to do is create a platform just for us, and we won't let all those other dissenting voices be on our platform. So everyone's going to create a platform. They're going to silence all dissenting voices. And so then everyone's just going to be in their own little bubble, which is already the problem that we currently face in society. I don't want that. I want a platform where people can speak, right? And the podcast apps currently, again, I've never had a problem. I have the freedom to speak. Now, I'm a little grain of sand on a beach of sand, a desert of sand. I'm just one little dot of sand, a little speck of sand. I don't amount to anything because I'm playing in a very, very big world with billions and millions of podcasts. So just trying to even be found, trying to even get discovered, it's almost impossible. And to try to do the things that I'm doing, are not going to appeal to a mass audience, but at least I'm there. At least I'm there. And so you want that. I don't know what to do. I think we have to be prepared that maybe our voices will be silenced, but I think the only option is then to create platforms just for our voice, which then you're just preaching to the choir. Now, you can preach to, and again, you can preach to the choir, but if you preach to the choir, you got to preach what the choir wants to hear, or the choir will tell you to go away. Because I've witnessed that on Christian radio. Like, I'm a Christian, we're a church, I'm going to produce things challenging what's happening in Christianity, and I was told, the end, you're gone. and I get kicked off Christian radio. And the same thing would happen on sermon audio. If you don't toe a certain line, then you're going to be gone. You're going to have to go. You're going to have to follow a certain thing. Now, they gave a lot of freedom and a lot of leeway. But I'm just saying they still restrict it. And again, I'm not welcomed, obviously, in any Christian podcast app because I can't get on one. I can't even get an email telling me why I'm not on one. And in many cases, they're pulling their podcast from Apple and Google podcast feeds. Well, if they're pulling it from there, I'm on all of those. So, I mean, for crying out loud, we are available on Pod Hero. Pod Hero is you pay a subscription, and then supposedly that money is supposed to come back to the podcaster. We're even available on that, and we didn't even do anything to get on there. We're on podcast apps that I didn't even ask to be a part of. We're on things that I didn't even do anything to get on. So, but not on Christian Pod. No, I'm not. So again, like I'm all for Glenn Beck saying we need dissenting voices, but what he's saying is you need his dissenting voice, and he wants to ensure that his dissenting voice is available on YouTube and Facebook. Well, at the same time, he has a platform known as Blaze TV that he doesn't allow other dissenting voices on. So, like, I don't know I don't know the balance here. I don't know what the right way to do this. I don't know. Right now, I think there is a lot of freedom to get your message out there. There is a lot of freedom. Now, I do agree. You need, most of us who are not technologically savvy, don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of equipment. Well, guess what? We're going to be relying on hosting platforms, right? Like our podcast is hosted on Spreaker. I need them. And then from Spreaker, then that allows me to get my podcast on all of those other platforms. I need these platforms. I need a hosting platform. I need these other platforms for people to get my content. Without them, then even if I built an app, I mean, think about it. Even if I built an app, I need someone to host the app, right? So I need the Google Store and the Apple Store. Even I created my own app, I would need that. And if I create a website, I've got to have someone you host your website through in your domain name. Like, ultimately, you're going to be relying, like, there's always going to be a gatekeeper at some level who could silence you. That's the way the internet's going to work. There's always going to be someone there who can silence you. So, and there's probably ways, those who are more technologically savvy than me can probably say, no, there's ways to get around it. Maybe so. But then you need search engines for people to find you. And what if those search engines decide that your content is not acceptable, and then they keep you from showing up on the search engines? Then you're going to be on the internet, but you're going to be basically a ghost, and no one's ever going to find you. So you're always going to need some gatekeeper. I'm saying that we need these things to be as free as possible when I say free to allow other voices and allow voices to speak freely as possible. We want to protect that. I don't know if a boycott against Facebook or some of these other social media sites, I don't know. I don't know what will happen. I don't know how much they're going to crack down. I don't know if Glenn Beck is using a little hyperbole there. I don't know how bad it's going to be. I mean, he went from a Facebook boycott to a civil war, and that the civil war is here. So, I mean, he took it really, 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 really far. I do believe we are going to see more and more voices silenced. And you're going to have to determine whether you think it's fair. I'm just saying, if you say it's not fair, and then your next thing is we need to create our own platform, and then you're going to restrict who can be on that platform, and you don't see the contradiction there, then you may want to take a class in logic. All right, I'll stop right there. That's where we are for today. And there's so many other news stories we could talk about, but I wanted to at least bring a couple of those things to your attention. And, you can email me at newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. I'll stop right there. Everyone have a great day. Be safe, be informed, and may God bless you.